Hey guys, welcome to day 1 of release week content. My name is Marcelina. I'm a teen author. I have a book coming out in literally 5 days. February 14th. This Saturday, Valentine's Day, this lovely book right here, labeled Innocent Presumed Dead, comes out, releases into the world, and it will be available for anyone to purchase on Amazon, Kindle Unlimited, Barnes & Noble, and I'm working to get it in other bookstores as well as internationally. It is a YA mystery romance, heavily inspired by The Naturals, Criminal Minds, Pretty Little Liars, and a little bit of a Good Girl's Guide to Murder in there. It follows a teen hacker who is kind of still grieving but also in denial about her sister's disappearance. Her sister went missing 5 years ago, and she's just trying to grieve and process through life. But then a weird FBI secret society group ran by other teenagers ends up recruiting her as their hacker. And that group specializes in finding missing women and children, coincidentally. It's called the Bureau. But of course, nothing is a coincidence, and the leader in particular knows a lot more about her sister's disappearance than he's letting on, and the whole group seems super suspicious. But with a new killer on the loose who's leaving ominous messages for our main character, she realizes everything's connected, and she's going to have to trust somebody in order to catch the killer and maybe find out the truth about what happened to her sister. There's a love triangle, there's found family, there's diary entries. This is just a really fun time. For release week, because this is super special and I want to kind of celebrate this book and the journey of it coming to an end and its publication and, being able to get it in readers' hands. Every single day this week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then the release of Saturdays when it'll all end, I'm going to be posting a long form video like this one. And it's not all going to be yapping, sit down, just talk at you videos. Tomorrow and Wednesday in particular are my favorites. I had this all planned out. There are going to be some games. Just a little hint, hint, wink, wink. Tomorrow might have something to do with tier ranking all the characters in this book. And Wednesday might have something to do with a little kiss, marry, kill game with a wheel. I don't know. So you might want to stay tuned, hit that subscribe button if you want to see all the fun videos I have planned this week. I have a really cool book trailer that's coming out Friday, a really fun Q&A that I've been hyping up for a while. That'll come out on the release, by the way. So anyway, I just have a lot of fun things planned. Welcome to the first video in the series. Buckle in, it's going to be a really long but a really, really fun week. Now, for day 1, I'm starting everything off with how it all started. I thought that would just be super symbolic because, this is the first day of that, looking back at the first day of this book and the process of this book and how Labeled Innocent Presumed Dead came to be. So that is exactly what this video is. I'm going to be breaking down and explaining and reflecting back on the day that I came up with this and how I came up with the plot and the idea for Labeled Innocent Presumed Dead. I always say that every book has a story. This is my second published mystery book, but technically this is my third book that I've ever fully written. So I do have kind of a lot of experience with coming up with book ideas, and I feel like every book idea has a story. There's a reason, there's a trigger that made me all of a sudden be oh, light bulb moment. I know what I want to do for my next book. You know what I mean? Every single book has that kind of moment. And I thought it would be fun to look back on how I came up with this, how this idea even poofed into existence, and what prompted that and all of that. So this is a very chatty intro, but I feel because this is just the first day of release week content, I did kind of want to slow things down and break it down. So without further ado, let's go back in time to February 18th, 2025. And yes, that is the day that I started this book. That this book, I would say, officially came into existence, not from a literal standpoint in terms of words on a computer or words on a page, because I didn't technically start writing the first draft of this book until May 24th, so several months later. But this was kind of what I'd consider the conception date of Labeled Innocent Presumed Dead. This was when I came up with the idea. By the way, I do have some notes on my computer right here, so if you see me looking at that, that is why. Just because this was almost a year ago, which is absolutely insane to me that it has been basically a year at this point. Let me just paint a perfect little picture for you. It's Tuesday. You know, Tuesdays are just kind of those like weird in-between days where you're like, it's not Monday. It's not the most hated day of the week. But you're also just like, another day of this. Like, you're still kind of having weekend hangover a little bit, but you're also just like, I just want to get through the week, man. Like, I'm tired. And you know, of course, the world hates me. And I had math, algebra specifically, right after lunch. And I hate math. I'm not the best at math. I'm definitely an English writing literature person, not a math person. Algebra is not my thing. I just don't like it. I don't click with it. And I think it was hard because I had such a good friend group. Lunch was always like the most hyper, enthusiastic, energetic time. So it was just really hard for me to kind of come down from that high very, very quickly and then basically be miserable. Like, I was so happy for 30 minutes and then I go into this torture cell of a room and a lesson in an environment for 50 minutes. We took tests not too often, every couple of weeks, and he would pass them back. I failed. I got like a 60%. You know, when I say algebra is not my thing, I mean algebra is not my thing. Like, I don't know how I still had an A after that, but I did. But yeah, I failed that test. So bad. So embarrassingly bad. But instead of throwing a little pity party for myself, which I mean I kind of was in my head, I was like, I am not doing this. I don't get it. I will ask questions later. I'll watch YouTube videos on my own later. I'm not in a good headspace right now. I don't want to do this. I need to have some sort of distraction and do something else. So I went on my phone. He was very, very, very chill. He was the type of teacher where if he was teaching a lesson, if he was up there like drawing things on the whiteboard and he saw you on your phone, especially because I was in the front row, he would yell at you. And his yelling voice was scary. However, if it was a point where it was like independent work or he could see you were done with your work, he didn't care. I started just kind of scrolling on YouTube for a little bit. I just wanted something to watch, background noise, a background video. I stumbled across this video on my YouTube feed and it was a Pretty Little Liars deep dive by this woman named Lauren Daisy. More specifically, it was a deep dive of the night Allison disappeared. Which, you know, I will link in the description down below because that really sets the tone for so much of how this story kicked off in so many ways. And I'd never heard of this Lauren Daisy woman before. You should totally go check her out, by the way. She is like such a good explainer. She's really funny. She has a lot of Pretty Little Liars content and like deep dives are her specialty. She's great. I was like, ooh, okay, like the night of Allison's disappearance, and I'm not going to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't watched it, although you probably shouldn't watch that video that I linked in the description. If you haven't watched it, it's super duper spoilery. However, if you have, you know that the night of Allison's disappearance is like the most confusing thing ever. It bounces back and forth. There's so many different things happening at once. There is no way that girl did all that in one night. Let's be so for real. Like, what? How? So anyway, I've just always been confused on that. And so I was like, okay, I want to know all the lore. Like, if she has paid attention and caught extra details that would explain some of the things I'm confused about that I haven't caught, I want to watch it. I was supposed to just really have it on as like background noise, something to kind of just like, you know, watch every now and then, right? You know, watch. Ooh, right. Like, my pencil stayed on the corner of my desk. I was enthralled. I was addicted and obsessed with the way Lauren explained things, with her humor. She had like this huge white poster board and then she got like a permanent marker and then she would just like draw arrows, like cutouts of like the characters, like printed photos of the characters, and she would like stick them on. Like, it ended up looking like a full true crime, like detective investigative board. You know what I'm talking about? Like that kind of thing. I'm personally a visual learner, so like seeing that as she was just recounting the events in order and like talking about it like that made so much sense to me. It was so fascinating. And it got me thinking. It's not the type of show where there's like a murder that happens. Traditional murder mystery. Who did it? Why did they do it? How did they do it? Case closed. You know, like typical murder mystery. And then there's obviously twists along the way. Things get revealed. People that we thought we could trust, maybe it's like, what? They're involved. And then some people that we think are suspicious, they're actually not. They have a good reason. But I feel like Pretty Little Liars, I think the reason why it was so popular, or one of the reasons, is that it is so complex. It is so complicated, and there is just never a clear answer to anything. Every time we think we know, or you think you figured it out, they laugh in your face because you don't. Something always gets revealed. Some of the A reveals, I will admit, were very predictable and some weren't, so it was just kind of a toss-up. At least for me, I'm not going to say I didn't expect every single A reveal, but most of them were very well done. They were very well executed, and it was just one of those shows where you never knew what you were going to get. It was so layered. Every single character was so flawed and so layered in the ways that, like, even if they were evil, you still loved them, and even if they were still your favorite character, there was still some morally grayness there, in that they had to do it for self-defense, but in the self-defense they killed one of your favorite characters or something. Like, it was just so wild. That is the only word I can think of right now. Like, everything means something. Like, if you don't pay attention, if you leave to go to the bathroom for a few minutes, you are going to miss something crucial. Like, every little detail matters. Like, everything comes back full circle eventually, even if it's in like 2 seasons. Like, it's that type of thing. And I think I always knew that when I was watching the show, but then hearing Lauren's breakdown of it, hearing her go into detail about, like, again, I don't want to spoil it, but, like, the ways that certain people's schemes played out, or the way that they meticulously thought of how to do this, and then they played one person so they could frame another. Hearing how just, I keep using this word, but just complex it was. Because it truly was. It was just this, like, interconnected spider web of just all of these really crazy things that made sense, but they were crazy to make sense. Gave me that feeling, that, like, adrenaline rush of, like everyone's gonna interpret this differently. Like, it's so confusing and it's so twisty. You always want to be one step ahead and figure it out. I watched about, I would say, half of the video, maybe a little more of it. I think it's like an hour video, so I think I watched about 40 minutes. And then it dawned on me. The bell was about to ring. It dawned on me. What if there was a book that made readers feel this feeling that I'm feeling right now? A book where no matter what, no matter how many clues are given to the reader, no matter, how much I lay out foreshadowing, no matter what gets revealed, even if there's something big that's been revealed, it only gives us 5 more questions. I was like, yes, this is a good show that gives people this feeling, but what about a book? I had that question. What if a book could make a reader feel that way? As soon as I got home that day, I ran to my room. I just started looking at my bookshelf and trying to pick out some mystery books that would give me that feeling, because I kind of wanted to feel that feeling as a reader. I at first wasn't really thinking of writing it, but then I was looking and I didn't see much. And then I just remember stopping on The Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and I had read that series, I don't even remember, like sometime in 2024. It would have had to have been 2024 because this was early 2025. That feeling that all bookworms, I'm sure, can relate to. You finish a good book, it's like a month or 2 later, it's so good, you're still kind of thinking about it, especially because The Naturals is a series. It's a 4-book series. I know there's a novella, I haven't read it. I don't really plan to because I've heard a lot of mixed reviews, and I actually am really satisfied with how the series ended, but I did get so attached to the characters, and like, it was the type of series that left me thinking about it and all the what ifs and like the way they interact and the found family and the different cases, and it was just something that really never left my mind. That moment, that day, was when I had a breakthrough. I love The Naturals. 2 pieces. It's a great series. Highly recommend, by the way. I feel like The Inheritance Games always gets all the glory and the attention, but in my opinion, I personally like The Naturals better. Now, I haven't read any of the Inheritance Games spin-offs yet. They're on my TBR for this year, but just like the main trilogy, like, it was pretty good. I would say overall it's like a solid 4-star series for me. But like The Naturals, 5-star after 5-star after 5-star. I love that series. But it just never felt too... I hate saying this because this makes me sound like I'm like some genius. As much as I love this series, it just never felt too confusing for me, and you could take this in a lot of ways. It just never felt like the main focus was the twist. There was twists, but the point of the books weren't to make us feel like we belong in a psych ward. So I was like, wait a hot second. what if I combine the aspects that I love from the naturals, because I do love so much of the naturals. What if I combine some elements from that, such as like the FBI, secret society aspect, like that recruitment organization kind of thing, teenagers solving cases linked to the FBI, like that part of it. Plus, you know, I love the found family. Found family is probably my favorite trope of all time, more than any like romance trope. Crazy, don't get me wrong, I love like enemies to lovers and stuff. Found family is my number one, okay? It's like I really want to have something like that where it's like a group and they all got each other's backs and there's like kind of an unwritten code. I was like, I want to do that. I want to create something that is so twisty, so just bonkers that people are going to be addicted. They are going to binge it. They're going to hate me but love the book. And that was really the day that Labeled Innocent, Presumed Dead took shape. And unfortunately, the clip I'm about to show you is not never before seen footage. I did show it in another vlog. I was very new to vlogging, but to get used to it, I was kind of recording clips on my phone to like test out how I liked it, if I was comfortable in front of the camera. And so right after I had come home and I had come up with this revelation to combine the naturals with Pretty Little Liars, I decided to mush them together. I immediately recorded a video, I was super excited. I was super pumped about it, but to just kind of like document where I was, and I felt in my bones that breakthrough that I'd had that day on a regular boring old Tuesday was going to be important. I had a feeling it was going to lead to something bigger. I just didn't know what yet, and I didn't know to what capacity, but I just knew it was meant to be. It was meant to find me in some way, so I wanted to like record it just to have something to look back on in case it did end up being something big and significant. So that day, February 18th, I recorded this clip. Okay, so here I am, guys. It is currently February 18th. Just got back from school, and I have to say, I was sitting in algebra today, and I was watching this like deep dive on YouTube of Pretty Little Liars, and I was like low-key missing the show. So that brought me to a whirlwind of ideas, and let's just say now, even though my first mystery romance book, The Love That Divides Us, only released like a month ago, and I really should be prioritizing marketing that, I have a new book idea. Inspired by the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes and Pretty Little Liars. I'm thinking it's gonna kind of be like an FBI secret society mystery romance, twists and turns. Yeah, so we haven't even started outlining. Like, I'm not announcing it technically. I'm gonna refrain from announcing it anywhere at the moment because things could change, and it's only February. If I were to write this book, I would start writing during the summer, and we're looking at like a winter at best, but most likely spring of 2026 release. So it just doesn't make sense to announce it now. Haven't even officially started outlining it. I'm just kind of doing my brain dump, and then I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there. So future self, do I actually end up pursuing this idea, or is it just a waste of my time? Because I really don't know at this point, but we shall see. It's interesting to entertain it, let's just say that. So this is like peak foreshadowing right here, because little me, I had just freshly turned 15. It was, you know, a few days after Valentine's Day. I had only released my last book less than a month before. My last book came out January 25th, so it hadn't even been a month yet. I was still kind of marketing, using my YouTube channel to market that book so that my sales didn't completely plummet, and I had just felt like I stumbled across something big, but like I said, I didn't know what yet. But I was just holding on to this. I was like, I don't want to let this go. I want to continue doing something with this. I feel like it has potential. Like, I want to see where this goes. After this day, it was very like, but how do I want to do this? I have this idea, but like, what else? This is very like one-dimensional right now. What's this book even going to be about? Until February 21st. When I did have something. It was a Friday at this point, and my brother's birthday is on the 23rd, but we had went out to dinner on the 21st for some reason. Don't ask me why we didn't go on Sunday. I don't really remember. But anyway, we decided to go Friday. We came home, and before we wanted to do cake, because we were way too full to do cake, we decided we were going to watch something on Netflix. Just watch a little something where we could like kind of talk about it and bond a little bit, but also just like rest before we had cake and did cards and presents and stuff for him. Just for context, my family is like really big into true crime documentaries. Like, if you name, there's only a few I would say that we've like specifically avoided for certain reasons, but like you can name pretty much any Netflix true crime doc and we've probably watched it. Like, we've watched all of them. This documentary specifically that we had stumbled across and we'd all agreed on it, which it's very rare for us to all agree on a show or a movie, but we had all agreed on it, and this was the Gabby Petito documentary. Now, I don't want to get too much into it because I feel like it has been a hot minute since we watched it, and I don't want to recap anything that is factually inaccurate. Also, it's a very heartbreaking case, and I feel like this is not the right video to talk about it. This is not the right time or place to like properly give it the sensitivity that it deserves. But basically, to sum it up, she was a vlogger. She was an influencer. She was trying to make it big as an influencer. And so her and her boyfriend, who will not be named because you'll see why, but they had gotten an RV and they were going to go, around the country. They were going to go, there's a word for it and I cannot think of it. And she was going to vlog their like adventures living on the road, basically. They had gotten through a few states, and then in Wyoming, she went missing. And then her boyfriend, or actually I think it was her fiance. Oopsie, sorry, that was a discrepancy. My bad. It was her fiance at the time. He ended up coming home without her. He had killed her. Obviously, he had killed himself shortly after, as they always seem to do. That's a tall tale sign that, they're guilty. But there's a lot of, we'll never know, obviously, as to why he did it. There is some theories and some like text messages that Gabby had sent her parents or sent friends in the months leading up to it, saying that he did not like her vlogging. He was so annoyed, also because he was in a lot of these videos, and obviously like with vlogs, like y'all don't see because like I cut, but like because you cut so much, that's what the viewers see. The viewers see the magic of editing, but like when you're actually recording, you have to retake and refilm so many times. You could be like, hi guys, like put in your full energy, and then something goes wrong and then you have to be like, okay, hi guys, like you have to like redo it. And I think he just got so tired of it, and she made several text messages to people, like offhanded comments that, oh, he's annoyed at me again, oh, he's complaining about the being in the video again. And I don't think she was forcing him, like don't try to like put her in the wrong here, but I just think it had something to do with that. I do also think that like there was definitely impulsive anger issues involved, because a huge part of this case was also DV. And they were driving to Wyoming. Someone, this just like passerby, or this good Samaritan too, had called the cops on them because he was like standing there. I forgot the exact like placement, but basically he had seen the RV go by slowly, and he could see them clearly. He could see it was a man and a woman in the RV, and a man was driving, and he could see the man slap her. So he called the cops. Again, good Samaritan. Good on you for like, not being a bystander. Like if you see something wrong, if you see domestic violence, good on you for reporting it, But the stupid police, they found this RV, pretty hard not to. They pulled them over. And the fiance started making excuses that she had attacked him. The cops just completely took his side. It was all men, I believe. There might have been a woman. But, like, they completely took his side. They didn't suspect DV at all. They didn't suspect that when you are in an abusive situation, you lie to protect your abuser. That's just what you do. You are scared of them. You are in fear of what they'll do. As a police officer, especially because there was, like, 4 of them there, we see the body cam footage in the documentary. So we get to see, like, the real thing firsthand, not just someone, like, saying it. Police officers should be trained to know the signs. I was, like, cringing and crying as I was watching that scene. It is so freaking obvious that she's being abused. There are so many signs, and the fact that the police officers literally didn't see any of them, and they just started lecturing her for putting her hands on him when that is not what happened. Like, and the fact they let him go. And what ended up happening was they went to one more place. They went to a grocery store. We see the grocery store cameras catching them in the parking lot, walking in the store, walking out of the store a few minutes later, or walking around the grocery store with the cameras in the store, walking out of the store, getting back in their van, and that is the last camera footage we have of Gabby. Because right after that, he kills her. So basically, it's the police officer's fault, and that leads to a bigger discussion of law enforcement being stupid, useless a lot of the time, biased, sexist, very clueless and ignorant. Like, the signs were very obvious. The signs of DV from her were so glaringly obvious. And, at the time I was watching this, I was 15. If a 15-year-old could clearly see the signs, how are these trained police officers not seeing it? So anyway, that documentary was the most heartbreaking thing I had watched in a really long time. I had not watched anything that sad in a while. I was full on bawling. I came out of watching that doc with two main themes that had come across. Main, like, morals of the story here. If there was something to be taken away from her tragedy that we need to raise awareness to, and that is domestic violence as a whole. DV is a huge problem. It's not getting any better. And I think we just need to be better at educating people about the signs of it, because it's not always as obvious as someone having a black eye. It's so much more subtle than that. And so I think that, but also DV leading to murder, I think is something that is so glossed over in today's society, but it happens so much. If you were to look up the amount of, like, murders that were because of DV, unfortunately, it breaks my heart, but it's so many. It's so many. That is something that we need to be more vocal about. Second thing that became glaringly obvious to me once I finished watching that documentary was just how much not all, some law enforcement can actually contribute to the problem more than they're solving the problem. And I say some because I know it's not everybody, but like some police officers, some FBI agents, some people in the government, they are just making our country and our society and our world worse. They are intentionally ignoring problems. They are discriminating or judging or making decisions to favor those of a different race, a different religion, a different gender than those that are not. What happened to fairness and equality? What happened to serving everyone, not just white men? Our justice system as a whole, our court and prison system is so flawed. There are just so many instances where a plain old average Joe civilian, you and me, would be better police officers than some of the actual police officers that are patrolling our streets that we trust to keep us safe. Case in point with what happened to Gabby in this documentary, in her story, because again, if those police officers had done their job and they had been trained properly and they had just been a little less like ready to just attack the woman and be like, the woman's the problem, the woman's the problem, the woman's always the problem, of course she's the problem, she must have done something to him. If they weren't so quick to assume that, they quite literally could have saved her life, because he killed her within a matter of days after that police run-in incident. Like, if that had never, like, it's infuriating how much law enforcement actually leads to more deaths when they should be preventing them, because this is not the first time that something like this has happened. This is not the first time that law enforcement has screwed up like that. It got me thinking about a lot of current real-world issues and how, like, bothered I was by them. You know, it's really something that's part of why I want to study in, like, criminology. It's just really something that I take seriously. You know, I take this kind of stuff and raising awareness to these kinds of things really seriously, and I want to be the type of person that makes an impact on this world. And seeing stuff like that have such a tragic ending because of people in the field who should be protecting us, it's sickening. I want to raise awareness. How can I raise awareness? I'm just a little 15-year-old. How can I possibly do something that will spread knowledge and spread these messages and awareness for DV and for abuse and for failed law enforcement and our failed justice system and stuff like that? And then I was like, that's it. I'm gonna put it in this new book idea that I have. And, you know, I think that there is a lot to be said about oh yeah, you know, books should be all fun and happy and escapism, and we read them to escape, blah, blah, blah. You shouldn't put, you know, real politics and, you know, stressful issues in books because that takes the escapism out of them. I personally don't agree. I think it is impossible to write a book, to have a fictional book that does not contain some type of real world issue. It just is. That would just be utopia, and that's like freaking dystopian novel at that point. We are not going to get that in a contemporary setting because our contemporary world is screwed up. And so I think that I do always like to include sensitive themes as a way to remind people and educate people through a light and through a direction that will make them pay attention. You know, I feel like if you just walk to someone on the street and be like, hey, this kind of thing happens, by the way. This is why our law enforcement can mess up. This is what you as a bystander, as just a regular civilian, can do to help. Here are the signs of DV. If you just walk up to someone and say that, they're going to be like, okay, bro, have a good day. They're just going to walk away. But I feel like if you are reading a book, if you're a reader and you pick up a book and you're like, you get very quickly enthralled in it, you know, absorbed in the pages, and the author includes certain lessons or themes, you pay attention. Even if, like, it's a very serious theme, if the author does it right and they weave it in a way that is handling with the amount of care that the subject should be handled with, readers will see, oh my gosh, that's disgusting, or oh my gosh, like, I didn't even realize that character A was being abused. The main character didn't realize it either, but then she found out, like, and then it might give people ways of like, okay, so that could be a sign of abuse. Noted. I just think it is so important to include these themes, even if this is a YA book, even if, you know, 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds are going to be consuming this, and, you know, we can't vote yet, unfortunately. Like, we have no say in politics, politicians, governors, presidents, police officers, FBI agents, etc., like in the elections of those, but we still have a voice, and I feel like including those issues to raise awareness to why they're happening and, you know, stuff like that, I think it gives us, like, I have a voice. I want to use it, and I want to use it to help others see the issue with this. If we create a new generation of vigilantes, of people who are, whatever the opposite of ignorant is, just very knowledgeable, very, like, self-aware, we are going to eventually create a much safer place. It's not going to be an overnight thing, but we will. And so anyway, that got very deep very fast. I was like, I want to incorporate her story into this book somehow. So the reason why all this matters is because February 21st was the day that I had decided to include a good amount of solved cases and cold cases into the cases that the Bureau, the FBI group, solves. And I wasn't going to do a word for word. Like, obviously I wasn't going to start having the Bureau talk about Gabby and say her by name, or say her fiance, her disgusting fiance, by name, or start, like, exactly listing, like, this girl in an RV disappeared in Wyoming. Like, I wasn't going to do that. I feel like that's honestly just so disrespectful to her family, to the people who knew her and loved her. And obviously, although they, you know, there's a 99% chance they will not be reading this book, they don't know who I am. Like, I just feel like that's just so insensitive of me to make someone else's horror into a fictional faucet in my book. So I don't mean I was going to do that. That's absolutely not what I did. But I took a lot of the elements from her case, those themes that I just talked about of DV turning into murder, and how we really, really, really need to watch out for the signs, and how law enforcement sucks, basically. And I wanted to incorporate those into key themes in this book that will help people come to the realization that I came to when I watched the documentary. I decided that the cases would be inspired by actual true crime cases. So, for example, the way, since I just spent so long talking about Gabby, the way I implemented Gabby's case, she is the first case in here. The Bureau mainly works on 2 main cases, plus like a third one in this book. But the first one, it starts around chapter 13 or 14, I believe. Her name in this book, like the woman's name, is Liz. and her boyfriend's name is Bobby. Now, the Bobby is a little bit of a nod because Gabby's fiance's name started with a B. So I was like, I have to throw some shade here. F him. Second of all, I was like, we're doing a little bit of Easter egg here. But basically, I made it similar enough where the basic premise, woman was a vlogger, she was influencing, they went on a trip, he came home without her. There were suspected pasts of DV that had gone under the radar, gone unreported, and I added a little bit of a twist with him. Bobby's dad was the district attorney. I wanted Bobby's father to be a DA because I feel like, and I actually just watched a documentary last weekend that kind of proved my point. DAs are definitely part of who I am talking about when I say law enforcement is sketchy. And so I wanted to kind of include that little dig with politicians and mayors and just people in that office. Like, they are so sketchy. You don't even know what you're getting into. They say all this BS at their election, and then it's just like, half of them are so sick and disgusting. And anyway, I just wanted to include a good bit of that harsh truth and reality in here. A little bit of government slander in here, I'm not even gonna lie. So that was the day that I really decided we are leaning into like actual true crime cases. And that's when I took a step back and realized that if I am going to go through with this, if I am going to include actual true crime cases, I want to do this right. I don't want to do this cheaply. I don't want to go the route where I just say I'm going to do this to do this. I just want to be like cool and interesting. I want to give these cases the clarity and the truth and the justice they deserve. I had done so much research. I watched Dateline after Dateline, true crime podcast after true crime podcast, interview after interview, read article after article. Like, I did my due diligence in doing my research to make sure that the 2, 3, 4 true crime cases that I was including, I was picking out the right facts to base it off of in my book, so that nothing felt rushed, nothing felt insensitive. February 21st was a game changer. That changed the entire point of this project. This had went from a fun little gig, a fun little thing that I was just like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if I just like make my readers go absolutely nuts and go crazy and make a super like uncomprehendable, twisty mystery book to something so much more personal and intimate, where it became more of my personal mission to make sure that, yes, I still wanted the twist to deliver. I still wanted those reveals and the betrayals to hit hard. I still wanted there to be like insane connections and everything's connected in some way or another, and you just have to figure out who it is and why and stuff. But I also didn't want it to be something that was just so fictionalized that it was just a piece of entertainment. I wanted this to actually mean something more than just like, oh, I'm just including my favorite tropes, I'm just doing like a cute little flirty banter, oh, there's a murder mystery, oh, they're making out on a mission. Like, I wanted this to pack more of a punch and be something that actually made a difference in this world. So from then on out, I just kind of continued planning like that. I just kind of the book started to take clear shape and it started to kind of get narrowed down. It was like, okay, this is going to be a very strange metaphor, but hear me out, stick with me here. Coming up with a book. This book is like a cookie. This is a crazy metaphor, bro. The first step to baking a cookie is making the dough. So me coming up with the initial idea for it was me making the dough. I put all the ingredients in. I started to kind of figure out the genre, the subgenre. So like mystery was the main focus. It was always going to be the main focus. There was going to be a smaller subplot, subgenre of romance in there. All I needed to make the cookie dough, so to speak. And I rolled it out. And then, but it was still, it's flat. It's flat cookie dough. How is that a baked, we'll say it's a triangle cookie. Does this look like a triangle? I don't know. We'll say the final cookie is a triangle. The dough is flat. How does it become a triangle? It's very like not even anywhere near its final form. I'm scrambling through my pantry and I find a triangle cookie cutter. And I press it in and I make a triangle. I'm sorry, that was weird, but like, what I'm trying to say is that moment felt like February 21st, 2025 for me. The day that I watched the documentary, the day that it truly clicked for me. And I had always known how messed up a lot of things were and how flawed a lot of things were within criminal law and within criminal justice and stuff like that. But it really opened my eyes to just the extent of it and the different types and scope of it was that turning point that really shaped this book. Just like how a cookie cutter can shape a cookie into its final form, this was the shaping moment for Labeled Innocent Presumed Dead. This is what really made me realize I don't just want this to be another YA mystery in the YA mystery section. I want this to be a true crime book. I want this to actually have weight to my audience and to the people who read it. For the next 3 days, I was just planning. I was so meticulous with it. I created a brain dump document. I really got into more of like, okay, I could have this. And I remember I'm just going to put a little picture. I'm going to crop things out, but I'm going to put a little picture of what my brain dump document looked like. It was very messy. As you can see, I used a lot of arrow symbols and a lot of like random like question mark. What if I do this? This X this? Like, I was like, it's the most unhinged thing you've probably ever seen. It's definitely not like fully fledged book material. This is not a baked cookie. And then, the night of February 23rd, I had stayed up until 2 a.m. plotting. Not like scheming plotting, like literally plotting my book. Where even is my notebook, guys? This notebook, this is my signature notebook. It literally has Labeled Innocent, Presumed Dead on the front cover. This is like, I have a lot of like outlining, brain dump things in here, timelines, just a lot of like brainstorming going on in here. So I had this next to me, I had a pencil, I had like water, I was like well stocked. I had decided this book was going to have a love triangle. Now, this may sound a little counterintuitive because you might be thinking, Marcelina, didn't you just say like 10 minutes ago, you were just going on a whole tangent about how you really wanted this book to not be so haha, silly, entertaining, goofy, and you wanted it to be a little bit more serious. And I did say that, and that is very, very true. I like to think that I didn't shy away from that in the final draft. This is the final draft, by the way. I'm done editing this book. There's a reason that I am not interested in journalism, and I am in creative writing, fiction writing. And I think that anyone who says that like the two things of having a fun time and having silly, goofy, entertaining aspects and having serious topics cannot coexist, you're just incorrect. Like, I'm sorry, honey. Your logic is flawed. There's no other way to put it. I can't let you down slowly with this one. You're just wrong. If you make one thing overpower the other, it is going to feel very washed out, and you don't want to do that. And so I really tried so hard, to the best of my ability, to make sure both things had their time to shine. Obviously, this is a YA book still, even though I am dealing with sensitive topics. And so it was important to me because it is YA. All of these characters are between the ages of 16 to 17 years old. 2 of the main characters in this book are 17-year-old boys. There's something else, man. Oh my gosh. Like, every time I feel single and I'm on Pinterest and I like see a cute couple, especially with Valentine's Day coming up, and I'm like, I want a boyfriend. Then I just take a look at some of the boys at my school and I'm like, never mind. I don't want a boyfriend. Teenage boys are just scary. I'm not even gonna lie. And I think that I included a lot of jokes. If you do it right and you include some flirtiness, some humor, you can still have a cute, flirty romance book that has banter, it has found family, it has good friendship, and like, hello, these epilogues, these last few pages are the cutest things I've ever written. There is a Christmas holiday epilogue, cutesy, found family, gift exchange scene at the end of this book. It is adorable. And I think you could still have something like that while still including something that is so dark and deep. It wasn't just because of the naturals that I wanted to write a love triangle. I had truthfully, honestly wanted to write a love triangle for a really long time. For at least a year prior to February of 2025. I had watched so many love triangles and shows. I also think that this was the point that I was getting into the Summer I Turned Pretty show. I was binging season 1 and 2 with my mom. We were watching My Life with the Walter Boys. Watched so many of them that I was just like, okay, this is clearly a thing. Now, I know how people feel about love triangles, and that's the only thing that was stopping me. There was so much inner turmoil at this point in February within myself, where I was like, are you stupid, Marcelina? If you put a love triangle in this book, you have a good idea. You have something here. You might ruin it. You have high chances of ruining it. It was something I went back and forth on for a really, 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 really long time. And there was just mainly the main question that was popping in my head was, do I really need this? I get one shot at this. I'm never going to write a book that slanders the government this much again. I'm never going to write a book that has the FBI aspects again, which I think really allows for the love triangle to persist, because in a love triangle, you need a situation where both of the love interests are going to be with the main character an equal amount of time. Therefore, they get an equal amount of time to try things out with our FMC. That's why so many people hate love triangles, is the predictability. If they are painfully predictable, it just feels like a forced attempt at creating drama and tension, and that is just, it comes off as cringy at a certain point, and readers just don't like it. I think the key to not doing that is making them both have equal amount of time with her, but also be equal. One of them can't be portrayed as a bad guy or can't turn bad to the point where it only leaves one guy, so then it becomes obvious, therefore the predictability factor is up, which again, predictability is the love triangle's #1 downfall. The fact that they all live together, I was like, this will give perfect tension and forced proximity. And I was like, if I'm gonna do a love triangle, it's now or never. I'm either doing this now, one time in my career, or I'm never doing it at all. Considering I was almost not gonna do it, I think that it really goes to show you gotta trust your intuition. And if something is calling to you, specifically at 2 in the morning, shout out to 2 a.m. thoughts, because I got this love triangle idea at 2 a.m. I have described to you the process of how I came up with this book, my story, labeled Innocent Presumed Dead's conception story, how it came to be on this planet. And, if you're like, wait, now I'm invested, I want to know, I want to see you outline, I want to see you write, I want to know how your writing process was, I vlogged all of that. I vlogged a lot of my outlining stuff, so I did individual character profiles and character outlining vlogs for each individual main character. I have a playlist for that. I have a playlist full of writing vlogs, and I in-depth vlogged all of my editing stages as well. So yeah, just check out my channel if you want to see a certain part of this process documented. If you're like, wait, now I know the ideas and your intentions and your goals, I want to see you actually write it and how it came to be from something like this to this, then definitely check out those videos. I don't want to make this a 4-hour marathon. I just kind of wanted to break down the origin story, because I feel like so many people come up with books. How did you come up with this idea? Like, everybody has a certain trigger or triggers that quite literally trigger them to be like, I want to write a mystery about a true crime ring, an FBI case that deviates from the FBI, because we don't like the FBI in this book, but we like the FBI group. And there's a lipstick killer, and the main character is a hacker. She's 16, but she's like a genius, and they're solving cases, but they're all interconnected, and there's like family tree secrets, and then, but it's also like found family, and there's like friendship for life, and then there's a love triangle, and things get jealous and tense. There's lots of plot twists, and it'll literally make you see the world differently. And like, everybody has a reason they wanted to do this. That is one of my biggest pieces of advice. I've gotten this question from a couple of people on my channel, like, how do you come up with book ideas? Like, I struggled to come up with ideas for my book, and I never know what to tell them, because the simple truth is, you never should really be looking. You never should have a moment where you're like, I'm going to look on Pinterest, I'm going to look up book ideas, I'm going to intentionally search for what to write about. I think that trusting that things will find you organically and naturally is the key, and like knowing that the best things truly do come when you least expect it. I know that's like the most cliche saying in the world, but it truly is real, and there is validity to that, because I was not expecting, when I had literally failed my math test and I was just going on YouTube to find something to watch to kind of calm my nerves down, because I'm the type of person, if I fail a test or if I get a bad grade, I get super anxious. I almost start having an anxiety attack. So I just wanted like a chill video, or just like a random video to kind of give me something mindless to think about other than like my spiraling thoughts of a bad grade. And I had found that video, and that had turned into what is now going to be my second published mystery book. Like, this is a career move for me, all when I was least expecting it, all when I was just being a student. I was just being a 15-year-old freshman in high school, not even thinking about, oh, what should my next book be? What will be good for the market? What's trending in the market right now? And just the accumulation of timing of when things happened worked out perfectly, and it just, again, kind of snowballed and gave me the perfect idea. And you do have to do a little bit of thinking from there. You know, obviously, once you have the initial idea, you are going to have to think and work a little bit to come up with some plot points. As you saw from my little brain dump that I put on the screen, like, I kind of lay out some, I wouldn't call them tropes, but just like plot threads, I guess is a good word, of things you think are interesting, just random things, and then you find a way to make them all tie together. It really all starts with that initial concept, that initial idea, which I truly do think is best to leave to the fate of the world and just let that find you, because I promise it will find you in one way or another, and then you will have a really funny, really ironic, sometimes iconic story to tell of how you came up with that idea. So anyway, that is going to be it. Now you officially all know how Labeled Innocent, Presumed Dead came to be, how it formed into this beautiful 464-page book, and I hope that this has only interested you more and made you more invested and want to buy it even more. Once again, it will release in 5 days on February 14th. I'll have all the pre-order links below so you can pre-order up until the release. So Friday, February 13th will be the last day to pre-order. Links in description. This is truly my baby. If you cannot tell, I have severe emotional attachment issues to it. I'm not ready to let it go and move on from these characters. I love them so much, but it has had such a story, no pun intended, such a journey from February 2025 to it now being currently February of 2026. A whole year has passed. This book has been 12 whole months in the making, and I'm just so proud of how far it's come. So that is it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for tuning in to release week day 1. I really appreciate it, and please make sure to come back for day 2 tomorrow. We are doing a fun tier ranking video, and I cannot wait. You're gonna get to learn more about the characters. So some other characters I was mentioning, Kyle, Allison, I'm going to be ranking them all. That might give you more insight on like who they are and who betrays who. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I love you guys so much, and I will see you all in the next video very soon. Bye!